the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business.
I'ma do whatever it takes, getting it done, any means, get rid of these snakes. Now I'm up in my stakes, going all in like step, get rid of these breaks. Now I ain't never gonna break, double my pace till I go down one of the greats. One of the greats, whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Can't believe I'm doing this.
Having fun, so that's all.
We like the life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one show in the world for growing your insurance business. This episode 176 on a Monday. I am Christian Brindle. I am joined as always with Glenn Shelton, and we got a fantastic show for you guys lined up today. Good morning, sir. How was your weekend?
Good morning.
Why don't we start there?
Oh, it was good. I felt like I got to catch my breath for a minute from the fire hose that's really been the past 60 days. It has been nonstop. I don't know about you, but I feel like the past pretty much from September 1st until like right now, I feel like it has just been like one thing after another. You know, we have the government shutdown, we have the non-commissionable plans, we have these state DUIs, like we have AEP going on, you know, ACA AEP just kicked off 10 days ago. Like the saying I think of a lot, it's like there's months where nothing happens, and then it's like there's days where like months happen. Mm-hmm. Like that's what it feels like, especially in our industry. You know, like it's so hard. Like I there's so many times I'm talking to someone, especially people outside the Medicare world. I was like, "Oh, how's work going?" Or like, "What's going on with AEP, Glenn?" And I'm just like, I don't know what to even say to you right now. You know, like I don't even know. Like, how do I even address you right now? Like, I don't even know what to say. You know, like I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yes. How was your weekend, sir?
You know, we had a staff meeting this morning, as you know, and
yes.
What I said at the top of the meeting was, you know, I think I'm just, you know, getting used to not sleeping. You know, who needs it?
Yeah.
Who needs it? It's overrated. Someday my little gremlin will be able to sleep through the night. The doctors say he needs to keep growing, keep eating, and can't take the foot off the gas, as they say. So, you know, because of that, it feels like everything's in a blur, you know, like,
oh yeah,
I'm sleeping 3-4 hours a night. My wife's sleeping 3-4 hours a night. And yeah, it's a lot, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, that's tough, dude. As in, the older I get, I used to feel like I could just function on no sleep. I used to literally brag about not sleeping. I would work a lot in the middle of the night. Like 12 to 3 was a big time period for me. Now I am such an old man about sleep. Like if I don't sleep well for a night, or God forbid a couple nights in a row, I'm dying. So yeah, my heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you for sure.
You know, one day at a time is what I'm taking it as. But do we have a lot to talk about on today's show. I really want to kind of get into it.
We do.
Non-commissionable plans is the topic at hand, but there is quite a backstory to this. If you've been in the Facebook group, there's been a bit of a rage going on, burning through the past, I don't know, 72 hours. I don't know what you'd categorize this as. You know, one thing that did happen over the weekend is, you know, I'm taking my daughter to the pool. You know, my wife and son are going to watch us. We're going to swim together, my daughter and I. And we're driving, and there was a complex. Like, I think it was like either an apartment complex or a building complex that caught fire. And we're driving by it, and it was a huge blaze. The smoke covered the whole sky, it seemed like. It was crazy out here. We drove right by it, you know, to get there. We could see it kind of across the valley a little bit. That is the equivalent of what happened in the Facebook group this weekend. And I want to break it down. I want to talk about it, and then I want to talk about kind of what the crux of the arguments have been about it relating to it. But it kind of starts off, where last episode we talked about a second Department of Insurance coming out and linking arms with the Idaho Department of Insurance by putting out a bulletin. Yeah, last Monday we talked about this. Since then, there have been several other state DOIs that have came out and did similar communications through bulletins. And you have Idaho now, you have Delaware now, you have Oklahoma, New Hampshire, and North Dakota. That's our 5 at the moment. And so agents I see online have just been kind of celebrating this, right? And championing what's actually going on. And so I went into the Facebook group and I put up a post being like, let's pump our brakes a little bit. I think there's a lot more that can happen before we can celebrate actually what's going on. Also, my opinion is if you actually look at the bulletins and also the cease and desist that the Idaho DOI came out with, it's littered with ways of wiggle room to where things are maneuvered, right? And if there's anything I've learned, it's that, and one thing I said in my post was the carriers are a lot smarter than any of these regulators, and it's not even close, right? They are so much craftier, savvier. They have so many more attorneys. They have so many more ways of kind of maneuvering stuff. So all I was saying was let's pump the brakes a little bit. When I put that up,
understandably so too. Very reasonable to say that.
When you read that post, what was the first thing that went through your mind, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I had seen some of the other comments. And really fast, double check. I think your mic's coming through the right input, but just double check it for me. I want to make sure before we get too far.
Yeah, it looks like it is. Is it sounding okay?
Yeah, maybe you were just a little far away, or maybe my internet was fuzzy for a second there. You sounded good. I just wanted to double check. So my first thoughts though is like there was definitely it's like an analogy would be celebrating the end of a war during like a temporary ceasefire. Like the celebration was happening a little too soon. You're up 30 points at halftime and you're ready to take a victory lap. Like the game, this is way too premature to start celebrating. And I saw some of the same comments that you're talking about where there was this impression that like the state DOIs that have put these bulletins, which again, the only official cease and desist is Idaho. I have not seen an official cease and desist from any other state DOI except Idaho. That's a big deal. A cease and desist is a big deal. That's probably going to lead to legal action of some kind, right? There's essentially a showdown that's going to be happening in Idaho. None of these other state DOIs have done that. There's been threats of cease and desists from some of these other state DOIs. But to assume that this bulletin means all MA plans have to be commissionable moving forward into next year, which is essentially what some of you have assumed. That is not the case at all.
No.
It's essentially a wag of the finger from the state DOI, like, you're not... It's like... Mother knows what you're doing.
Naughty.
No.
Yeah.
You filed these plans with commissions, and now you're not.
Matumbo was running all the DOIs. No.
No.
I think that's a great analogy, right? And I think that's a great synopsis of kind of what we're seeing, right? Like, I'm not saying that what we've seen is a bad thing.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But I think the attitude is that this happening is going to take things back to the way they were before. And that is, in my opinion, not correct. But I think to really kind of get down, and we can kind of circle back on this in a second in terms of like what the actual solution is, because I've been asked that like 4 or 5 times now. What is the actual solution then if this isn't it? I want to talk about this. Let's talk about the sponsor real quick. Let's get it out of the way because we got a lot to cover.
The same thing because I feel like we're not going to be able to stop
once
the train leaves the station on this one, and there's so much to talk about. So, today's sponsor of episode 176 of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is none other than Hire Heroes, our vetted virtual assistant platform. If you guys are looking, and I actually shared my screen here so you can see the website, hireheroes.com, HIREHEROES, hireheroes.com. If you're looking for a vetted virtual assistant, someone who has already been proven to be successful, that we have a working relationship with, that can be dedicated to your business, your agency, and help you with some of these low-level, no-revenue tasks or low-revenue tasks, social media management, handling inbound, outbound calls, managing your CRM, your calendar. This is an incredible solution. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to agents or agency owners, and they're just overwhelmed with how much they have going on. This is an incredible opportunity to have you focus on your highest revenue generating activities. It's super simple to sign up. We grab your information, and then we get just a couple of quick questions about the tasks that you are looking for help with. Probably 2 to 3 minutes. And then we find the best virtual assistant that can fit your needs at your agency or for your business. And then you're off to the races, typically in a week or less. So again, if you are drowning in tasks, if you have too much going on, if you're trying to scale and you keep hitting a wall, head over to hireheroes.com. Guarantee you we can help. HIREHEROES, hireheroes.com.
Boom. All right. So there's so many different directions we can go from here on this conversation, right? I feel like probably the next place to go before we jump into how this actually bled into non-commissionable plans conversation, because it did. I promise we're going there. People asking the question, what is the answer? What is the solution? And my answer was simple. Carriers are having a financial squeeze. The answer to that is one of 2 things happens, if not a combination of both. One, they have a litany of plans. I've talked about this in nauseating detail on the pod. I don't want to go into the weeds on it once again, but they have this huge amount of plans all over the country. And it's worse in certain markets than others too, because not every market is created equal in terms of economic viability and potential.
Correct.
But they have this huge amount of plans that were designed for a different time, that were designed under a totally different rule book, I guess. Right? So they can't hit the reset button like that and then all their plans disappear and they replace them with new versions of the plans. It doesn't work that way. There's only a certain amount of plans they can terminate at one time. They have to work through this over a couple of year period. I've called it the reset.
Again, really, really fast, because on this point alone, because I think a lot of agents are like, well, if they don't want the plans, just get rid of them. And we talk about how they get penalized, but also if you think about the consumer, right? Think how jarring that would be for the Medicare beneficiaries if they could. If they could just wipe the slate clean every AEP, right?
Right.
They're trying to avoid that type of chaos.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason to that.
And don't get it twisted, right? These carriers, they're terminating a lot of plans, but they don't want to do any more than they have to because it looks so bad for them the more they do.
Right.
Like it's got everlasting, continual damaging effects to their reputation and brand, right? So there's so many different reasons to this. It makes more sense to gradually do this over time for a litany of reasons. So this has been talked about now for a year. This really kind of started last AEP. Experts have said, I had a great conversation with Craig Ritter. Craig Ritter actually said this from the stage at the summit this year, that's going to be about a 3-year, give or take, reset. So this is the second AEP of that. It needs time to correct, but they're not being given the time to allow it to correct. Now, does that mean that the carriers have handled everything correctly? Certainly not. I'm not trying to make that argument. I'm not trying to be a carrier apologist.
Carrier apologist. He's a dissenter.
The carriers have handled things wrong. I've been publicly critical about carriers saying in September they're going to pay about their PDP commissions, and then a month later during AEP they say, just kidding, and pull the rug out from under agents. I thought that was just unnecessary, and I didn't like that whatsoever. So I don't think the carriers have handled this appropriately, but the crux of the argument remains that them doing plans and suppressing them and making them non-commissionable is them trying to get through this correction, whether you like it or not. We talked about on last podcast how if a carrier gets $1,000 a month in funding per member, your $25 a month renewal commission doesn't make a difference. I'm sorry to say.
Correct.
The second thing that needs to happen, if not both at once, if not one or the other, maybe a combination of the two, is the carriers need more funding, because they're paying out a lot more for prescription drug costs than they did before. Like, it's just kind of a dollars and cents things, right? They either have to make the plans just strip them, right? All the ancillary benefits, all the goodies that we're used to on the Medicare Advantage plans, they can't exist in the same way if they're going to pay out on prescription drug claims like they did. So the carriers either need to be funded more, or they need to be allowed to correct, or there's a combination of the two, right?
Right.
But so that's why I'm skeptical about DOIs coming out, even CMS coming out, right? We're expecting to get a proposal from CMS probably in the next 30 days, I would imagine. Even if they come out and they mirror a lot of this verbiage that the DOIs are saying, it's not fixing the larger problem. Like, what agents don't understand is if the carriers aren't allowed to make money, they're not going to pay you. Like they need to be able to profit.
I love how you said that.
So
how do I get this through to the agents listening and hearing this and watching this?
But
if
anyway,
they're not making money, they are not going to pay us.
Right.
Do you guys get that?
So if that is the root of the issue, and those are the things that need to happen and they're not allowed to happen, where do we go from there? That was my argument. Right? Like, where does this go from there?
Well, and also to highlight, the reason I think HMOs are becoming the new standard, right, is because I think the cost of care is less, right, compared to a PPO.
Sure.
So
yeah, they can control costs.
They can control costs. It's also, HMOs are typically more focused on preventative care, right? That's another positive, I think, for everyone, right? This isn't just about kneecapping seniors' benefits here. I think there's a lot of great cost savings with HMOs, but also some potential good health savings too. If we focus on preventative medicine, I've heard the stat before. I don't have it pulled up in front of me right now, but it's something like every dollar that goes into preventative medicine, it's like $4 in care that gets saved, because if that, you catch something early, now they're not going to have to go through, whatever that procedure could have been, chemo, etc. So, I think there's a lot of good things that could potentially come from that. But yeah, the bottom line, like Christian just said, is like the carriers have to be making money in order for us to make money. It is a symbiotic relationship. And for whatever reason, that is where there's a huge disconnect, I feel like, is between the carrier and what they're doing and what we're doing as agents and brokers. It just seems like there's this disconnect in the industry, in the Facebook group, among agents.
And I see agents posting things, like throwing out United Healthcare's net income, or Humana's net income, or Aetna's net income. And it's like, oh, this money, but can't pay on plans? Well, it's like, no, they're not going to stay there if they pay
That's
on
like a weekly.
don't make
That's
them
a
money.
weekly. That's a weekly post, by the way, where it's like they'll be like Q 2025 Q1 net earnings, you guys, and it's just like line by line, carrier by carrier. It's like 90 billion, 70 billion. Like, they don't need us. They hate us. It's like, what are you?
My favorite one is when
unhinged.
My favorite one is when people put out there like the CEOs of that company's salary. Like,
Yeah,
the CEO makes 20 million per year. Well, they should give some to us for the plans. And I'm just like, first of all, do you think that CEO is more valuable to the carrier than you are, little agent? I do.
Yeah.
I think they're more valuable to the carrier. Not to say the agents aren't valuable. I'm not trying to take that position, but it's just a weird argument to me. Again, right? A carrier is going to look at every plan on a plan by plan basis. It's not a giant conglomerate conversation of all of their profits. It's like, okay, this plan, the margins are bad. We got to solve that. And that's how carriers operate.
Okay, before we get further into the non-commissionable plans part of this conversation, I want to go back to the state DOI.
Yes.
Because again, last week we're doing this podcast and we're talking about how Delaware joined Idaho. And we're like, this is crazy. Halloween, we do a podcast. It's just Idaho. Then the Monday after Halloween, it's Delaware and Idaho. Now here we are a week later. And now it's up to, I believe, 5 states. I think it's South Dakota, Oklahoma, New Hampshire, Delaware, and Idaho now, who have all issued very similar bulletins. What are your thoughts on the fact that we are now up to 5 separate state DOIs that have issued bulletins talking about their concerns with non-commissionable plans?
Yeah, I mean, I have conflicting feelings about it. I think it's good to keep the carriers in check from a regulation perspective, because again, I don't think they've handled everything the way I'd want them to. I don't think they've been completely blameless in this whole situation. So I like holding them accountable, but what I don't like is squeezing them so hard in a tough situation without a solution. Because I think if you do that, it then creates a domino effect to where things are worse for us as agents.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a meet in the middle point where like there's a solution that actually fixes the problem, and at the same time the carriers are held in check. That's the perfect mixture there to me. So part of me, there's a part of me that I'm in agreement and I'm supportive of keeping them in check, but there's another part of me that says, okay, what happens now? What if another 10 states come out and they really start feeling the pressure? CMS comes out, but again, there's no solution to the problem. This could become a much larger problem for us as agents.
So are you joining the agents who believe that if they get squeezed, it could come to the point where they're just like, well, we're just not going to pay you guys? Like, are you joining those agents? Because that's almost seems like that's what you're saying here.
I don't know if it'll get that dramatic necessarily. I'm not fully there yet, but I mean, what we might see is carriers not offering plans in certain states, like we've talked about before, which hurts those members. There's less competition, right? It could result in carriers not wanting to be in the Medicare space at all, like we saw with ACA in the day. That hurts members, that hurts consumers, that hurts competition. All of a sudden, we see a Medicare Arches pop up.
Right. All of a sudden, state plans are coming in.
And while it might not be, there's no plans that are commissionable and carriers just cut bait with agents entirely, it could be more non-commissionable plans. It could increase the amount we're seeing now. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if there's any like doomsday thing, but I think it could be really rocky for everyone is kind of my thought. Because if it gets bad enough for the carriers, they're going to take their ball and go home. We've seen this many times.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, like I'm trying to think through this in the sense of, the federal government, because this is, again, majority of Medicare, even Medicare Part C, is being funded by the federal government. So, like, how could they just be like, fine, walk away? Oh, you don't want to sell Part C? And, all of a sudden, the top 3 biggest Medicare Advantage insurance carriers just walk out of 15 states, right? Like, worst case scenario, like, let's go there, right? It's like, I have a hard time believing the federal government would just be like, fine, get out. I didn't want you in these states anyway. Like, I feel like CMS is going to side with the carriers at the end of the day with this. Like, if it came to them leaving 10 to 15 states, right? If we got to that point where all of these states are issuing cease and desist, and now we're like going to the Supreme Court over this, right? Which it honestly isn't too far fetched. We already have the showdown set up in Idaho. We have all these other states jumping in. We get to 15 plus states. This could end up much higher in the court system, and they're trying to debate what the ethics behind all of this are. But I have a feeling CMS at the end of the day would be like, hey, we need you in these states. We need you. We need you to fund this run the healthcare.
I'd like to believe that, but this is what I think back to. I think back to ACA when it first got implemented. I think that's a great parallel to what we're seeing right now, right? That was a situation where carriers were used to one system, health questions, underwriting, lower premiums for healthier people, higher premiums for unhealthier people. And then all of a sudden it changes to where they're responsible for a lot more. Premiums are higher. They're trying to figure it out. The 3 biggest health insurance companies in America, United Healthcare, Humana, Aetna, all pull out in the ACA space for many years. It took about 7 or 8 years for Aetna and United Healthcare to come back. Humana never went back. Aetna's pulling out now of ACA again, entirely, whole country for 2026.
Right.
And so that's what I think about. I'm not saying that it's not possible that there's something that CMS does to kind of help the situation. I'm also saying, though, that it is very possible that if the carriers get squeezed in that way, we could see that. And that's what I'm concerned about.
I mean, it's a good analogy. It's a good analogy as far as, again, being in this kind of unprecedented, Christian's favorite word, like being in this window. It's like you're trying to figure out, well, what is this like? How could things shake out from here? I mean, that is probably one of the best analogies, is to look back at what happened in the ACA space. It's just hard for me to believe. It's hard for me to grasp that we could get to that type of extreme, but I guess it's possible if this really got to that point. But I guess, I don't know. I don't think it'll get that severe. I think I'd like to think CMS steps in early and kind of cuts this thing off at the head, and we do get a proposal in the next 30 days, 40 days. Dr. Mehmet Oz, I would like to think that he's actively working on this. I'd like to think that him and his team, his administration over at CMS, are actively working on, well, what's the solution here? And some of those bulletins we went through, they had some like light proposed solutions in there. Sure. I wouldn't say necessarily they were a silver bullet by any means, but there was some solutions that the states kind of pitched, and sometimes it could be, as, again, like I said before, sometimes it could be as easy as just having this set early on. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much more time on this. I do want to let's shift back to the non-commissionable plans. And let's talk about, I think it's time to talk about agents writing these plans. I really think we need to get, if you need any more backstory before we actually start that, feel free to
let me zoom through the rest of the backstory in terms of, so that post brought on a lot of chatter on it about selling non-commissionable plans.
Which post?
The first one, the post about the DOIs.
Okay.
That's where this all started. And I'm like, you guys are selling non-commissionable plans? I'm just like,
yes.
And I'm seeing this and I start, debating with agents. I start having conversations with agents on this post. So then I make another post. I'm like, okay, let's see. Let's shine the light and see what really is there.
Christian's walking into the cave. He's like, how many bats are in here?
Yeah. So I put up another post.
The bats just come out. Yeah, the way that text was formatted the post was great. I mean, you could tell Christian's probably laying on his sofa, one hand. He's like, all right, guys, let's do this.
Yeah, baby on my chest.
My mind. Yeah, I felt it.
Yeah, that's literally what the setting was. Asleep, peaceful, and I'm giggling on my phone.
Agents, and it was agents who are selling non-commissionable plans are the problem. Change my mind.
Are part of the problem. Change my mind.
Okay, there we go. It's
or contributing to the problem, something like that.
Yeah.
And it blew up, this post. And I would say the majority was in agreement with me, but there was enough who pushed back on it that was a little concerning. And it really opened my eyes to how many agents out there are selling non-commissionable plans. Now, some were just saying, oh, I'm just selling non-commissionable PDPs because I can't get paid in any PDPs.
Right.
We can talk about that.
Yes.
But there was also plenty that were like, I'm selling the MA. I'm getting referrals out of it so I can sell those referrals non-commissionable plans. And it just exploded.
Sell this non-commissionable plan. I'm going to get 5 referrals. I'm going to write 5 more non-commissionable plans. Now I'm going to get 25 referrals. Do you see where this business is going?
And it just exploded into multiple posts, multiple topics of conversation, a post from you, several more from me. And it dominated the Facebook group over the weekend. Lots of contention.
Comments. There was just, it was a bloody battlefield in those comments.
Yes.
It really was on both sides. People just falling on the sword.
I was sitting there over the weekend with my wife and I'm like, explaining to her what's going on. She's trying to understand what's going on in the group because she doesn't really pay attention. And I told her, I'm like, I'm going to throw a grenade in the middle of this and make fun of handwriting cards. And I did. And that created its own thing. We don't need to talk about that. We talked about that on the show, but
yeah, we did.
It was a lot this weekend. So okay, that's caught up. That's caught up, right? So let's talk about this. Let's talk about agents writing non-commissionable plans.
So
your thoughts. This episode of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by my mini course, How to Find and Buy Books of Businesses. Guys, in 2024, Glenn and I, in our combined company, purchased and acquired through acquisition 900 clients. And over the years, we've purchased thousands of clients to grow our agency internally. And we've learned a thing or two over the years, right? There's certain things you need to look out for. You need to know how to value a book of business. You need to know how to transfer everything, what the expectations are in terms of the timeline. And you need to know how to put a deal together and structure it to protect yourself while still at the same time doing good business with people. Guys, this mini course is around 10 videos long. It's a quick and easy thing to get through. And it's a great way for you to grow your book of business in 2025. Whether you're finding an agent that is maybe been in the business for decades and they want to retire, and then maybe they don't have any kids to take over their business. Maybe you're looking at a situation with an agent that just hasn't been able to make it in the business and they're just looking to go off and try other things. Buying books of businesses can be a great way to quickly and rapidly grow your business fast. And we've unveiled all of the little tools and tricks that you need to know in this training. It's a one-time purchase for only $197. For that price, we're practically giving it away. Make sure to check it out now. Now back to the show.
So the number one, and I want to say this too, it's tough because I feel like Christian and I are in this every day. Like we're in the agency, we're in the FMO, like we're dealing with these same things that you guys are. And And a lot of times when Christian and I like come to a solution or like we're talking through these things, I'm thinking we're very similar to the majority out there. And again, you know, spoiler alert, on the agency level, we're not writing any non-commissionable plans, period. PDPs, you know, again, that's what we'll get into that a little bit right now.
We'll talk about it.
Topic of conversation. This is non-commissionable Medicare Advantage plans. We are not and will not be writing any non-commissionable Medicare Advantage plans as AAP. And I thought the majority of agents kind of fit in with our paradigm on this. Like our thoughts are, because again, why would you want to, right? Like there's no benefit that you're getting. You're going to lose the renewals. And so what came up in the comments, the number one reason it was essentially customer experience. That was the number one reason other agents were saying, hey, I know I'm not getting paid. I want to take care of this client. I've gotten paid on them for 10 years. And, you know, I could get a referral from them.
It's time for that to end.
Please stop paying me, Reynolds. And so this is where I feel like the diversion happens, because I am on the team of customer experience. You know, you look at Amazon, you look at Apple, you look at these incredible companies that they're obsessed with customer experience. And I think, you know, Christian and I, we have 5 different companies. Doesn't matter like which one you're interacting with. We fall into that same boat. Like we want you to have an incredible experience working with our companies, whether you're a Medicare beneficiary or you're an agent at the FMO, or you're buying leads, or you get a virtual assistant from us, or you're part of the CRM, you're in the university, you come to the summit. It doesn't matter how you interact with us. We want you guys to have an incredible client experience. We get that. However, we also are under the impression that this is contributing to the problem, just like Christian said in his post. Like, if we write that non-commissionable plan, not only are we personally taking a hit, but we're giving the business that the carrier doesn't want, right? They're not paying not to try to save money, but they're specifically paying because they don't want that plan. They're de-incentivizing the plan because they don't want people on that plan. So we're hurting our carrier partners. And that's something that gets missed entirely in this conversation, because everyone gets laser focused on I want to take care of my client by making them not my client anymore and writing this non-commissionable plan. So you're hurting the carrier. And that's something that I think gets missed a lot in this conversation, because almost every single person that tried to defend writing non-commissionable plans, they didn't mention that. They didn't mention, I know this hurts the carrier, but I'm doing it anyways, right? So that's the big one. That's the contributing to the problem part. There's also the piece of this, and then I'll turn this over and let you jump in here. There's also the piece of this that you're sending a message. Every app we write collectively as brokers and independent agents, and I think I want to believe this is a small percentage. I want to believe, even though I'm reading these comments, because my timeline on this, I went from starting thinking, okay, almost none of you are going to write these plans. Just like Christian and I are taking a hard stance. Like, we're not going to write non-commissionable MA plans. Then I started to see a trickle of comments early in AEP. And I thought, okay, every now and then, some of you are going to write these plans. To the battlefield we saw this weekend in the comment section, where I'm like, oh my God. I don't know how many non-commissionable, how many are we writing? How many? I want to believe it's still like a couple percent, right? Like, surely we're not all just like, we'll get them next time. Like, surely you guys aren't all out there, right? So that's scary, because you're sending a message to the carrier where you're like, hey, no biggie, you don't need to pay me. I just like doing this. I just like writing apps for you guys. So I want to stop there. There's a lot more. There's a whole part about E&O I want to get into. I want to
talk about that. I want to talk about that.
I want to turn the mic over to you and yeah, whatever you
there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. So
it's my biggest fear coming true. I really feel like the fact that everyone's out there just like, oh wow, and I'm gonna ride it.
I want to give you some credit for having a Nostradamus moment yourself, because going into AEP, I think you told me, probably I think you did on the show, but also several times privately, that you had a fear that a lot of agents were going to be writing non-commissionable plans this AEP, and I was like, nah. I was like, no, there's no way. That's
that fear. I thought it was just going to be more about the confusion behind it, right? That was really
right.
When I predicted this, I was like, they're going to be so confused. They're just going to, there's too many plans. But the quoting tools have eliminated and suppressed a lot of these. So I thought, okay, when I saw that, I'm like, we don't really have to worry about this as much. But sure enough, people are like pulling paper apps. They're like printing out paper apps. They're mailing paper apps in on plans that don't exist in the quoting tools. Like, walk me through it, like from your perspective on this, because I think you had some shell shock this weekend too, for sure.
Yeah, I did, and it's I was like, once in a blue moon, I will go off on something, and I will just, everything you see on social media when you log into your app on Facebook is you'll see me ranting about it. Like, and if you're in the group, that will happen from time to time. It happens a couple times a year about something. This was that moment. It's been a few months since I did anything like that. And you did a great job of hitting on two things there, right? You're pushing business to carriers that don't want it. That's not good for them. I think what we also need to address there is that also destabilizes the carrier's bottom line in general. It hurts them more than just on that plan, right? The reason why they're stopping enrollments on that plan is because they don't want it to sink into their bottom line and affect other plans.
Right.
Right. So the argument I made over and over and over, there were several comments that I was copying and pasting because I was just replying to the same thing over and over and over and over and over again in the Facebook group. And one thing I said was, you're actually hurting your client as much as you're hurting the carrier, and you're hurting your clients that are on commissionable plans too, because by you pushing people onto these plans and pushing business to the carriers they don't want, you're going to contribute in destabilizing the carrier's bottom line, which ends up having worse plan options for them going forward. That's number one. Number two, you're forcing your client to have to change again in 12 months to 24, maybe max, because the vast majority of these non-commissionable plans are going to be phased out. They're going to term. Now, I had somebody reply back to me on that one and be like, well, they can change every year. They'll just change. But many of your clients, right? We have a lot of clients. Most of our clients don't want to have to change every year. If we told our client, hey, if you sign up for this plan, you're probably going to have to change because it's probably going to go away in a year.
Another great
They probably wouldn't get it. They probably would choose another plan, even if that other plan was slightly worse. Because they're like, okay, I'm choosing long-term stability or a chance at long-term stability. Clients don't want to change every year, and the ones that do are the ones you don't want. Right? And so those two things as well. You're not just hurting the carrier, you're hurting your clients. And you're hurting your clients that are on regular plans. Like, it hurts everybody.
Yeah, that's another point that got missed out from, again, because the number one pushback to what we were saying and your post was saying is, well, I want to take care of my client. It's like, well, get ready to do more service work and have them get upset calling you in the next 10 to 24 months when that plan gets terminated and they're scrambling to get on another plan, when you could have already set them up on the right plan to begin with.
You know what we're going to be telling people that we run into, leads we get over the next couple of years as more of these plans term? We're going to be like, yeah, your agent should have never left you on that one. That's irresponsible.
Ooh.
I'm going to have my sales team say that to your client.
Yeah. I love it.
Demonize you.
True. It's true. It's absolutely true. Okay, so let's talk about the E&O part of this, because
that was fun.
This is a whole nother part of it. There's a couple things I want to preface. I actually spent some time yesterday trying to get more tangible evidence of this, and I didn't really get it. And here's part of the problem too is, I mean, how many people on the Medicare side specifically, we'll say, how many Medicare agents do you know who've had to file E&O claims?
I don't know if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen one either, right? So that's part of the problem is when we're talking about if an agent writes a non-commissionable plan, will their E&O cover a complaint? You know, let's say, God forbid, a senior enrolls into a non-commissionable plan. You choose to write that plan. Something horrible happens, and now they're suing you for $1 bajillion because they're like, you know, I would have caught this cancer sooner if I had been on a different plan. I couldn't get the coverage or the medication I needed. This took years off my life. I'm suing Christian now for $1 million. And you can't pay that as an agent, right? So what do? You have to go file an E&O claim, right? Errors and omissions. That's what this insurance is for. You have to have it. You have to have E&O. So I did use ChatGPT and I did some research, and then I did more research. I was trying to find tangible policy. I wanted hard written language that pointed to this, and I couldn't find it. But here's what I did find. Here's what I know to be true, is that there is some loosely possible interpretation where professional services can be legal. The legal definition of what a professional service is could potentially be explained as something you're getting paid to do. So if you're working for free, that might not qualify as a professional service legally.
Great point. Great point.
That's one of it. That's one part of it. The other part of it is sometimes it's possible, from what and again, I haven't actually gotten eyes on hard policy docs. So if anyone has any, please send them to me. I'd love to see them. But supposedly there are in existence E&O policies that have hard language that says you have to be getting compensated. That's actually a clause in there. But even if that clause isn't in there, professional services could potentially legally be defined as something you're getting compensated for. And so now you're in this weird vague space. And then someone commented on my post, and they said that, you know, contractually, the carrier, you have to have that E&O policy to work with the carrier. And so if your E&O isn't being covered when you write that policy, you might be technically jeopardizing your contract with the carrier because you're operating outside your E&O. And so it's kind of this round and round, you know, of just insanity. But thoughts on that? And do you have any further evidence of this that I'm not aware of?
Yeah. So for the past month or so, I have had agents, a couple in particular, that are contracted with us, or they have a few contracts with us, reaching out to us, basically asking for evidence, proof that the E&O says it won't cover them on a non-commissionable plan. And from everything I can tell, there's nothing that specifically lays that out that I can see. And that was kind of the argument that I think some people were making on your post. It's not written anywhere. It's just a wives' tale kind of thing. But that being said, it's not clearly spelled out in what I have seen, right? Like, and this is the way I'm kind of approaching it, right? I'm not an errors and omissions insurance expert. Right. I don't think either of us are.
Right.
But there's enough plausible doubt there from credible sources. I saw people saying they called up their E&O company, and the E&O company was like, yeah, of course we'll cover you. I've also talked to people, myself included. I called our E&O company at the beginning of AEP because I was curious on this, and they basically said, they're like, we're not sure. We're not sure. We're going to have to bring in a higher up. You know, it was like this big point of confusion. I've also talked to other people that are credible sources that have said it's a wiggle room area. It's a technicality that the E&O carrier can use to wiggle out of it, right? So like there's plausible doubt there at the least that the claim would be covered.
Again, to go back to the economics of being an E&O carrier, their goal is to not pay out, guys.
Yeah.
Right? And if you fucked up, right? You did something you weren't supposed to do, they would love to be like, "Oh, we're not covering that." And now you're on the hook for that claim and whatever lawsuit or amount that is. There's a comment from someone on my post. I'm not sure, Marie. Take this with a grain of salt, but when I read this, I was like, "That's it." Like I thought she really nailed it. As a former liability adjuster, I would never take the chance. The E&O carrier would reserve their rights immediately and then deny the claim once they confirmed you knew it was a policy and that you knew it was non-commissioned. So again, I don't know about the second part of that, but that first part of being able to reserve their rights, there's enough gray area from what I can understand on this that I think they could reserve their rights and be like, "Hey, wait a second, we're not guaranteeing you this claim. We need to look into this, and depending on XYZ, we might not pay out." Like, I feel like it would at least get harder. Like at a bottom line, I think the chance of an E&O company being like, "Oh no, we got you," like if they legally don't have to, they're going to try to probably look for a way to not cover the claim.
Yeah, and that's my stance as well. I'm not going to profess that I know the answer fully. And I don't think anyone knows the answer fully. You can tell that by looking at the comments there.
Yeah.
But my interpretation off of things that E&O companies have told people I know, told me, told other people, the mixed messages there, and the fact that it's not clearly spelled out in writing and it has gray in it, means that there's plausible doubt there. There's a realistic chance that it could be a point of contention in paying out the claim. And why take the chance is my attitude towards it, right? Like we, on top of all the things we talked about, right? Bad for your client. That's indisputable.
Yeah. So this is what I was going to ask you. We're getting towards the top of the hour here. I'd love to do a full recap here. Like, what are all the reasons why an agent should never write a non-commissionable plan?
Bad for your client long-term for the reasons we expelled out. Plan's going to term. It's going to destabilize the other plans the carrier has, if not the rest of the market. It's contributing to that. One plan on its own won't, but if enough agents take that stance and every agent submits one plan or two plans, it's a law of large numbers at that point, right? So bad for your client for those reasons. Bad for the carrier who you're partnered with. They can terminate your contract. There have been carriers that have come out and said, if you're writing enough non-commissionable plans, they'll term you. Number 3, bad for you. You're not getting paid for your time. You're not taking care of your family. You're doing charity work at best.
You're a ship worker.
You're a ship worker. Yeah.
You're a ship worker.
All of those reasons combined with, and on top of that, I would even say, like, in the back, right? In the background of it all is this doubt of the E&O aspect of it, right? Like, that's like almost like the drizzle on top, the chocolate drizzle on top of the ice cream and everything, you know, like, so to me, those are the reasons. I did want to talk a little bit about PDPs. I know we have about less than 10 minutes left. I wanted to talk about this real quickly.
Yeah, let's do it.
So PDPs, right? I don't think you should write those either.
I don't think, but the one exception I would say is if the med sup's involved, if you are getting, there's at least something to justify your time as an agent writing that. But I still agree with you. If it's a non-commissionable plan and it's a PDP plan, you probably shouldn't be writing that either.
Yeah. And this is our stance on the PDPs. If we have the med sup policy, we'll figure it out for them. And if it's a plan we can't sell, which as of today, basically, there's not many we can sell. There's one nationally
as of Let me check today.
So taking the assumption that 99% of the PDP comps we're going to run, we're going to be non-commissionables that are the best option. We're going to have the client self-enroll on Medicare.gov. We created a video that walks them through step by step. If they can't do that, we'll give them a phone number to call the carrier, but we're not going to do it. So it doesn't mean we won't help them figure it out, point them in the right direction if we have their Med Sup policy, but we're not going to do the enrollment ourselves. Because it's a principle thing for me. Number one, we won't sell things we don't get paid for. Number two, if you believe at all in what we talked about on the E&O side of things, that's still a thing. Right?
It's a risk. Even if you think it's a low risk, there is some risk there. Tangible risk exists for sure.
And when I say that, I'm not saying like tell your client to go jump in a ditch when it comes to talking about the PDP. I'm not saying that, but you should only help the ones that you have the Med Sup. And when it comes time to write it, you shouldn't write it. You should have him self-enroll. That's my stance. And that's what we've been doing. Since on the ones that we couldn't write, the one that was paying until today. We squeezed a bunch of those in before the end of the week last week.
Another thing I wanted to circle back on here, and I think this is a good point to do it. Like Christian just mentioned there, self-enrollment. So really the only good argument I saw in the comments, and if I missed anything, please let me know. But the only good argument I saw about writing these non-commissionable plans is that you're taking care of the client, right? It's all about that white glove service, right? The client experience, you want the referrals, right? So here's my counterpoint to you guys out there who believe that. You might be watching this now, or you're watching the replay, or you're listening to this, and you're like, screw Glenn, screw Christian. I'm going to take care of my clients. I don't care if I get paid. And there's a lot of virtue signaling out there. And there's a lot of people who kind of are like, I don't need to get paid to do this because I'm going to do what's right for my client. Well, guess what? There's a way you can do that, and you still don't have to be the one to write that plan. You can help save yourself time, and you can still give your client a great experience. If you genuinely believe that their best option or their only option is to get on a non-commissionable plan. I saw an agent that said they're doing Loom videos. So they're self-recording. They go to the website, they're recording themselves and their computer screen. I do Loom videos all the time. And they're saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, here's how you can enroll in this plan. You need to go to this website and do this. And it's giving them this step-by-step and then sending that to them by email or by text message. That is a white glove experience. And you are still taking some of your time to help them get on a plan that's non-commissionable, but you are not attaching your name to that plan. And that is important because you're not sending that message to the carrier that, hey, I don't care what you want. I'm going to enroll someone in a non-commissionable plan anyways. Screw you. So, and you're also, but that's the great compromise, in my opinion, is really helping them self-enroll. Whether you're doing a video or maybe you're doing like a 3-way phone call with the carrier and you're handing them off to the carrier, whatever your process is, helping them self-enroll. It still frees up some of your time. You're not as time invested. You're not taking the risk of writing a non-commissionable plan, so the E&O risk doesn't exist. You're not sending a message to the carrier that, hey, I'll work for free, no worries. And you're also protecting some of your time. And so like that's the great middle ground here. And the idea that you think you have to write them to give them a good customer experience, I just don't believe that to be true. I think that's a lie, to be honest.
Agreed. And that's very similar to what we're doing. We're not recording a personal Loom video for each one. We recorded one video that shows how to find a plan on Medicare.gov, how to self-enroll, and then we send that to the client. It's on YouTube, and that's worked fine so far. So yeah, I like it. I like it much better than doing an appointment or spending 45 minutes on the phone, or even 15 minutes on the phone, truthfully, and taking the time to enroll them yourself. I don't like anything about that. We're reaching top of the hour. I want to move into final thoughts. I had one more thing I wanted to cover, but I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to make it my final thoughts.
Okay.
The other argument that some of these people are making is that if they enroll people into non-commissionable plans, they're attached as AOR, and then when the carrier starts paying comp again, then they're there. There was actually a regional carrier that did do this.
Yeah.
And someone used that as ammunition on one of the posts.
The battlefield of the comments. Hang on. They're like, send it back. I've got a regional carrier. I've got Christian on this one.
My argument there is regional carriers are going to regional carrier.
Yes.
They're not going to match what the rest of the market's going to do. If you look at the top 3 carriers, top 4 even, nationally, they make up 70 to 80% of market share. And we should be thinking about what they do, what they will do, and they're not going to do that, right? You're going to be attached to AOR on a plan that's going to terminate. I call it the Titanic plan. You know what I mean? Like the ship is going underwater. It's like going up in the air. There's the guys playing the music. Do, do, do. And there's your client standing on it. Be like, oh, my agent put me on this ship, but we're going down. Hold on, Jack. Hold on. Rose. Hold on, Rose. And like, if I don't care if a regional carrier did that, there is almost 0% chance of that happening with a national carrier and the vast majority of carriers. There's always an exception to the rule. It doesn't disprove the rule. And so I wanted to use my final thoughts to address that as well, because if we don't, that will probably come up.
No, I saw that. And I thought that was crazy when I saw the screenshot of that regional carrier. I'm like, really? Yeah, I mean, getting that AOR record on a non-commissionable plan, all I can think is it's basically just a liability. I look at it in my mind as like you're signing a contract saying like, hey, if anything goes wrong, even though I'm not getting paid for this, please let me know. Like that's how I view AOR on a non-commissionable plan. To jump into my final thoughts, you guys, this is an ever-evolving situation. We've already seen again, I mentioned the fire hose of the past couple months. I mean, the fire hose of the past week alone, kind of what's evolved at the state DUI level. So I guess what I'd really like to say, though, again, the further involvement of this whole scenario, we're going to keep you in the loop. That's what we want to do. That's the whole reason really for the podcast is we want to be able to come to you guys with new information as soon as we have it and help facilitate some of this discussion, like what we saw in the Facebook group this past weekend, the 7-figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. What I'd really like to share as my final thoughts, though, is if you are out there writing non-commissionable plans and you think you're doing yourself a favor, you're doing your clients a favor, I want you to really think about it. I'd like to hope that over the past hour, Christian and I have put out enough information for you to maybe we change a few people's mind. And help again. I hope we offered some solutions to the situation where you can still take care of your client. You can still give them a great experience, but you don't have to be the agent of record. You can save yourself from potential liability. You can help save some time and maybe go write something that is commissionable. So great episode. I appreciate everyone who watched or listened to this during AEP. I know it's crazy out there and everyone's crazy busy, just like Christian and I are, which is why we've only been able to do one of these a week right now. As soon as AEP is over, we're probably going to come back and do at least 2 or 3. That's what we talked about doing. But right now, for the foreseeable future during this AEP, we're probably only going to be doing 1 episode a week. So that being said, we are still doing Freebie Friday. We gave away Christian's book last Friday. So comment below. Tell us what you're thinking about these non-commissionable plans. If you're team replay and you're watching this, comment below. Tell us your team replay. There were some people commenting today saying where they're at watching this. Tell us where you're at, what market you're in, what state you're in. And Friday, we're going to give something away like we do every Friday right here in the group. So Freebie Friday, comment below on this stream in the 7-figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. And yeah, and until next time, Christian, any other final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I think we did a pretty good job of kind of covering all my thoughts. And all that I have to say to end the show today is, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, give a 5-star review, whatever the platform of your choice will allow you to do. If you're watching in the Facebook group on either live or replay, make sure to comment to be entered into Freebie Friday, like Glenn said. And also, if you did watch live, comment, or if you actually watched the replay, comment hashtag Team Replay. We love to kind of get an idea of who's watching after the fact, after the show is done live. And if you guys would like to see the show come back more often, let us know. We'd appreciate the feedback. And until next time, guys, here's to the next time. Appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end, and we'll see you on the next one. Here's to your massive success and sell commissionable plans. See you guys.